All right, Mexican Joe here. We're going to try something new after going over and hanging out with Dawn and looking at her Hugel bed and all the stuff she was doing. We decided to try, Karen had been wanting to try garden buckets. Now, it looks like we've got these huge syrup buckets here, and we've got some 55-gallon drums we're going to cut in half. Most of this right now is just going to be based on the first three. What we did was, I had some down pine out here in the yard, here on the property. So I brought it up, started chopping it up, and I laid the pine laying down in sheets. First one goes north south, second one goes east west, kind of stacking it like you would for a fire. And we're using that as a Hugelkultur bed as a base. So we laid the wood in there. And one of the theories that we'd had was I had another friend who used to take a 1-gallon milk jug, put the lid on it, empty, after it was rinsed out, and just lay it in the bottom of the tubs just to displace more area. So therefore you weren't using a ton of good dirt and other stuff that you have to pay for or you come up with. She was displacing area to fill the buckets to where she wanted. We've kind of combined the two, and instead of using 1-gallon buckets or jugs or using a pot upside down in the bucket to do the same thing, we used layers and layers and layers of wood, of rotted wood. So that's in the bottom. So we've done two things. One, we've displaced area in the containers. Two, we've created a Hugel bed in the bucket. So it's a Hugel bucket. Now, me and Karen are out here running around the yard doing this stuff, and while we're doing it, she'd come up with more ideas that we've got all these leaves in the yard, we've got wood scraps and chips from splitting wood and all that kind of stuff. So, what we did was, we've got our 3 or 4 or 5 layers of wood chunks down in the buckets. The buckets are probably about 2 foot tall. They're maybe 1.5 feet across, almost 2 feet, I guess. I've got a picture that I'll post that'll have my foot in there. And it's just a 9.5 foot, so they're not real big, huge buckets. They're almost the size of a 55-gallon drum cut in half, a little shorter, a little more narrow. So we took the wood chips, or the wood pieces, chunks that are half rotted. They're going to continue to rot over the years. Then we added leaves and these other little wood scraps from splitting wood over where we do all our wood splitting. Put that on top, and then we went to our rabbits, who are, like our chickens, they're little fertilizer factories. So we had an area where we had a big old pile of rabbit droppings. So I put one small shovel. I've got these little small garden shovels, about like what you would have in the military, almost like an E-tool. And we put 1 scoop of seasoned rabbit manure in each one. It's probably a little more than a quart, maybe 1.5 quarts. Sprinkled it around, spread it out, and then we used some Miracle Grow garden soil. It's for vegetables and flowers. And for the 3 buckets, it only took 2 bags. And we're about 4 inches from the top of each one of them. And then we're out here talking about it. We're not going to compact it too much, but we also think that it's going to settle. So we're going to check this out, and we'll do pictures as we go through this. Now, kind of as a thought, Karen had gotten out here and figured out what she's going to do is she's going to do the 3 sisters garden in the buckets. She's going to plant corn. She's figuring she can get 7 corn stalks in each bucket around the perimeter and 1 in the middle. No, none in the middle. That's right. Okay, so 7 around the outer sides, spaced about 5-6 inches apart, maybe 8. Then she's going to do, let that come up. Once that comes up, she's going to plant beans or peas around the corn as well. So as the corn grows, the beans and peas grow up into the corn, help support the corn. I think that's really going to kind of net it together. And then in the middle, she's going to plant a zucchini or some kind of a squash. Now the theory is the zucchini and the squash puts everything back into the soil that the corn and all the other stuff is pulling out. So it's going to feed itself. So that's why they call it 3 sisters. One helps the other and helps the other. Now the theory is the corn will grow up. It's getting its nutrients from the squash The squash is acting as a ground cover, keeping your moisture in your dirt. Plus, we got the hugel stuff on the bottom, the hugel wood on the bottom, and then the beans are going to crawl up the corn, and they're going to kind of hold the corn together so that winds and stuff don't end up flipping the corn around, since they're just going to be in this buckets. So that's where we're at today. We've got the dirt done. We got these done. We're going to let them sit. We may water them a little bit, see how they soak in. Also, I forgot to mention, in the beginning, I drilled 4 3/4 inch or 1 inch holes in the bottom, or 1 inch hole in the bottom of each bucket with a paddle bit. Therefore, they will still drain. Now, we've talked about a couple of different plans on where exactly to put them. These plants all like full sun, but they don't mean Texas sun, because that's like living on the sun. So we're in it's not a full canopy, it's a filtered canopy, but we've got some areas that get really good sun. But once that 2 and 3 o'clock sun really starts baking on stuff, they go behind another group of high tall trees, and they'll get a little filtered sun, so we won't get the baking effect that some people do. So therefore, it'll also cut down on our irrigation. So far, it's worked really well over the last 3 or 4 years on our tomatoes. They get the morning sun, they get the midday sun, and then right about the time the intensity really starts to hit, they get shaded by the house. So that's worked out well. So that's this phase, and we'll keep going, and we'll see what we end up with. Okay, here are the hugel buckets that we're trying out. We got 2 of them doing 2 different things. This one right here, for some reason it wasn't growing quite as well as the other one. You can see they've only got about 2 foot of growth. The corn's doing okay. I don't remember what she planted in there, peas or beans. They're doing okay. The squash is just sitting down in there not doing a lot. But if we come over to this one, the corn is doing much better. I watered it the other day. I only use rainwater. The squash is actually taking off, and you can see from this angle there. Oh, look at there. We got a bee in there. Where is he? There he is. And they're doing his bee thing. So that's kind of cool. So you can see all of these flowers are all doing their thing. So these others back here, like they're already wilted down, so the bees already gotten in there. So we're getting ready to start doing something with these. So these were in the backyard. I had them in filtered sun, kind of under the canopy a little bit, so they get sun just in the middle of the day. I went over and saw Dave's garden, and his is in full sun, and his stuff looks about like this one. So I decided to move it out into full sun and just keep it watered. Now, when I say it's in full sun for part of the day, because you can see I'm canopied kind of all the way around. And then see, the sun comes up over here, and then I get a little bit of filter coming through here, and then these are some of my lower trees, my bigger opening. So I've got quite a bit of space here for my sun. And out here, there's my existing fruit trees. 2 nectarines over there. That one right there behind the flagpole, that is a Granny Smith. I got 2 yellow delicious behind that, 2 pears to the left, a cherry tree. I got a peach, a plum. And right back there is my real exciting one. That is a blueberry tree, and it's actually popping out blueberries. So that's kind of cool. And then the one right there, that's my apricot. So anyway, that's the end of the hugel buckets, and I'll comment on it and add pictures afterwards to show you kind of what kind of produce we're getting out of them, to see if it's worked out real well. It's just kind of a fun experiment. Okay, here's one of the hugel buckets that we did. Karen only got 2 of them planted, so here's the third one. And what we did was some of Thomas's watermelons sprouted, so we put them in there. Got a little mushrooms going, but fungus is not a bad thing. I mean, stuff's starting to decompose, so I'm just kind of leaving that alone, and I'll go show you the other ones.